so far.
Is there anything else this bloke can't do today?
Koutoufides! What a match winner he is.
So my father was born in Egypt, Greek Cypriot background, and I think the new government came in and they had to flee the country. And so his father and brother and sister went to South Africa. His two other brothers went to Greece, and he got the passport to Australia, so he came out here on his own. And my mum, by the age of 22, had lost both her parents in 2 years. And she had a brother out here, so she came out here with intentions of then going back to North Italy, but ended up staying here. So then my parents met, and obviously they lived here. And there was no doubt this game of footy introduced my parents to the Australian way of living, because they were totally against me and my brother playing the game when we first mentioned it to them, until my father decided to start to take us to the games, and then my mother wanted to come along to know what the game was all about, and they didn't miss not one single game. My brother was a huge influence on my career, being only 13 months apart. He was always, I guess, the renowned footballer in town. The teacher sent him a card in grade 6 to say to Kouta, the only kid to pick up the football with one hand. So he started it, I just created it later on in my career. I stole it from my brother. I'm very proud to have been chosen in the Italian team of the century, the Greek team of the century, the multicultural, I think it was team of the century or decade. It's really, when I think of the heartache and pain that I went through when I played football, it took me 3.5 years to cement my position in the senior team. There was many times I doubted myself, many times, I went home emotional. So to think of what I went through to persist and push through to what came at the end of it, I'm glad I stuck with it, and I could not have done it without my family support. I know what they went through to come out here on their own, no money, work hard and sacrifice everything. I felt like I had everything because they gave me love, and I think that's probably the most important thing. And so every time I went out there, I was given the number 43, and because of that, my mum was born in 1943. It was the reason why I held on to that number, to represent her, to make me proud. Ange was number 39. Well, guess what? My father was born in 1939, so he represented my father as much as he doesn't know it. The great Ange Christou, he was a great mate of mine. We formed a great friendship straight off the bat. I guess because of our cultural backgrounds. He was more the inner city European boy. I was the northern suburbs European boy, and we just hit it off. For me to be able to strive when I watched him playing senior footy and I wasn't getting games, he was one of the main reasons I would try even harder to just get out there and prove that I could be better than Ange, and he did the same thing with me. So that Kouta and Ange, Wolf and Kouta chants that went around the ground, that there I'll never ever forget. And I think the premiership moment too, when that siren went, I went looking for Ange because we went through a lot together. Mil Hannah got in the way, so I shrugged him off, the old cranium. But those memories that I'll cherish forever, and the friendship that I've formed with Ange too. Yeah, I idolised Mil Hannah. He had the body that we dreamt of. When I first turned up, he was the man who had the physique. He was so quick. But just to understand his background, his father, I think his father stayed in Lebanon or came out here on his own with Mil, and his brother had to stay in Lebanon. It was a very tough time. So Mil came here at the age of 8 or whatever, and by the time he was 16, 17, he was playing, Australian rules football here at the Carlton Football Club, and was an absolute athletic freak, ahead of his time, in my opinion. So to me, and I'm sure Ange would say the same thing, he was almost like our role model and our mentor when we played. Being of European background, I'm sure he understood us. We spent a lot of time with Mil, and I remember even the grand final, him pulling Ange and I aside and just giving us a pep talk before the grand final. He was just a wonderful man, Mil, and an incredible player at his peak, really impossible to stop. And then the past history of some of the other great Europeans that came along here to play too, some great names that, the Jeselinkos and these sort of guys, in particular throughout the 80s. So it was a real honour for me, I guess, to represent, the Greek culture and the Italian culture out here, representing this wonderful club too. And I think that helped the club too, for all the Europeans that were around, really probably adored us too. Even the Greeks or Italians that barracked for other teams would still admire the fact that Ange and myself and the other guys would be playing here. And I'm sure even with Mil Hannah being Lebanese background, it's probably the reason why we have so many Lebanese supporters here, because of Mil's influence on them. And I'm sure that carries on till this day. I think it's really important to celebrate the multicultural round. I'm not sure where I'd be without football. Football was the reason why I got out there, and I started to understand Australia, and it's unique to the world, this game of Australian rules football, that when I exposed my relatives and cousins to this game, they couldn't believe how incredible it was. When my auntie and cousins and that came from Italy back in the mid-90s to come and watch they were just in awe of this wonderful game, of how good it was. You know, they fell in love with it. So when I went back to Italy, in the northern part of Italy, where my mum's from, in the bar there, they'd have a poster of myself. You know, this is Italy that I'm sort of had a little impact on, and other parts probably around the world, because of the opportunity that I got to play this incredible game. I think I'm a great story for anyone who's got, you know, migrant parents that have just come over here, that you can do it, you can make it and play this wonderful game.